It's that moment where you feel unworthy and you start comparing yourself to other people and you think, I should be much further along in my journey than I am right now. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people, when they present their A version, their A game on social media, it's not always true. I know it's not always true. I mean, when you have someone who positions themselves, for example, as a spiritual wealth coach, but you know they're broke as a joke, you don't want to call them out because they're struggling too. And I think sometimes in that time when I was posting stuff,
Yeah.
I was ministering to myself. It wasn't that I was trying to necessarily empower a lot of other people. If that happened, that's great. But I was doing it to just stroke that belief in myself.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Awesome. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. You know, I have a big heart today. Just God touched my heart this morning. I woke up and had so many things to be grateful for. And I say this in midst of a trial that I'm going through. And it's beautiful, right? Because sometimes these trials, they make us stronger. They fortify our heart, our ways, or they just open us up to what's possible. And sometimes these trials, these challenges, they make us better. So I want to encourage you. I don't know who this is for this morning, but just embrace whatever you're going through this morning. And talking about embracing, I embraced this gentleman here, dear friend of mine. I embraced his friendship. He's always positive. He's always full of energy. And I really enjoy talking to him. And he's going to be your guest today. He's going to add a lot of value. So I'm going to start a little bit early. It's time you get the pen and paper out because this guy's going to drop a lot of wisdom, a lot of value, and something magical happens when you put pen to paper. Let's welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, the one and only Brian Wright. Woo woo!
Hey, Daniel, it's great to be here.
Man, well, thank you, man. I tell you what, it's been an amazing just year ride. I'm so excited to hear what's going on with you. I know what an amazing person you are. You got so many things going on. You're a ghostwriter. You have your own publisher for a magazine, and not only that, you're an amazing individual, right? You got a lot of great characteristics that I really admire about you. You're real
Thank you.
helpful and genuine. But that being said, I want you to tell the Daniel Gomez Inspires show, the world, who is Brian Wright?
Wow. That's a big philosophical question, but I don't think that's what you meant. Well, it's interesting. I started as a teacher. I have a teaching background. So I taught public speaking, English composition, and business math at a 2-year business college called Lincoln School of Commerce when I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. I spent 8 years in Nebraska and I taught at that school for about 5 years or so. I also did some resume writing on the side. And interestingly enough, the enrollment changed at the school. It got lower because they had a sales director who did not believe in yellow page advertising. This was pre-internet. So I have no idea what possessed this person to take the yellow page ad out of the phone book because that's where a lot of their new students were coming from. So enrollment dropped to about half in less than 9 months. And so when you have lower enrollment, it means that you don't need as many teachers. And so I gradually got phased out. And it was based on seniority. It wasn't based on performance at all. They made it very clear that that was not the reason for it. It's just that when you don't have as many students, you don't need as many teachers or not as many classes that are needed.
So you were, I can't see you as a teacher, Brian.
You can't? I was a classroom teacher for a while.
No, I say that because I think we would just be playing and having fun all day.
Oh, well, you know what? I did make my classes fun. It was really, really fun. I mean, for example, I teach public speaking or English composition. That's one of the classes that I taught. And so people would ask in my other classes, does spelling count? Of course it does. Spelling always counts. Does punctuation matter? Yes. If you have the sentence, let's eat, grandma, the comma goes after the word eat. But if you don't have a comma, the sentence now says, let's eat, grandma. Different sentence altogether. So yes, punctuation is very important.
I'm laughing because I have a friend of mine when I do a Facebook post or something and there's a misspelling. She always sends me a message through Messenger. Hey, this is wrong. And I think we did that. One of the first events we did, somebody else did the post for us and I shared it. She goes, whoever did this post, you need to tell them to fix blah, 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 blah. And I was just like,
So what you need to do is download Grammarly as a Chrome extension. And so when you're typing in your post, it will tell you that there is a mistake. And if you hover over it, it will tell you what the fix is.
awesome. Well, thank you for telling us that. Man, well, I'm excited just to really talk with you today and just have fun with you and really add value today. So let me ask you this. You talked about, you were a teacher and how has Brian used that teaching career that he had? How did you transition from a teacher to a entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur? Talk to us about that. That's
As
interesting.
interesting as that sounds, the leap wasn't as big as you might think it would be. Because my goal is to motivate, inspire, educate people to be the best versions of themselves. And so with my goal being to do that, that guides everything I do. My radio show is meant to do that. And just like your radio show is, your podcast is. I mean, I interview amazing world-class achievers. You've been on my show. And I interview them to draw out the lessons that they learned in life and what their journey was and what they overcame. And then we talk about their area of expertise. I mean, when you have a chance to sit at the feet of Darren Hardy or Jack Canfield or Mark Victor Hansen or Sharon Lecter or Stedman Graham for an hour at a time, you learn a lot.
Yeah. So what did you bring from your teaching background? What is really, I guess, give us two takeaways that you brought into what you do now, right? From your teaching background. Because I think right now, I just looked on LinkedIn and many people are losing jobs and they've been there, like you said, 5, 10, 20 years. And all of a sudden you think about it, right? JCPenney filed for bankruptcy and there's a lot of change going on in the retail world and just in businesses. I think Southwest Airlines laid off, I want to say it's like 4,000 people. But I say that because sometimes we do a lot in our career. We don't even realize it at our jobs. And those skills, we can transition them. So what are two things that you drew out of your teaching career to what you do now?
Well, I think preparing for my show is huge because I prepared for the classes that I was teaching. So I had an agenda that day that I wanted to get across. And so I plan my radio show that way too. I have my list of questions. I'm not bound to the order in which I ask them. If the conversation goes a particular way and it sparks me to think of something else to ask, and so I do. I'll just give you a really great example. My guest from my show this Monday, we're friends on Facebook, and I had noticed in her Facebook post that she did goat yoga last weekend. So of course, that's the first thing I asked about is, okay, tell us about goat yoga. What is this? I have heard of it, but a lot of people haven't. I've shared that with a lot of my friends on Facebook, and they're asking me, is this a real thing? Yes, yoga is a real thing. But you do your research and you prepare. And so that's what you do. In fact, when I speak to audiences of, high school or college students, and they always worry about what am I going to do when I grow up, I say, don't worry so much about that, but worry or be concerned with growing skills that do transfer, because in times like this, you have to be able to transition. In fact, I mean, I tell people that when I graduated from high school, there was no internet, there were no cell phones. And so there are a lot of industries now that exist that did not exist when I was in high school.
Yes.
And I tell these high school students, there will be careers and industries 30 years from now that don't exist. So what kinds of skills can you adapt that will transfer universally? Be able to speak in public, be able to write clearly, be able to sell, persuade, negotiate, get along with people, learn how to have great relationships and be able to get along with people. Those are the things that transfer across many and probably every single industry.
Yeah, those soft skills, right? I think nowadays, I love what you're saying because I realize that as I go and our business is growing, it amazes me how many people that we communicate or just talk to that don't have those soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're right, because no matter what, you can learn a new, say, skill set, but the way you communicate, the way you interact with people. And I think sometimes we interact so much with our cell phones and texting that we lose that human touch. We lose that power of the human touch.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to have a side hustle. Don't be bound by one source of income.
Yes.
because when that one source of income goes away or is significantly impacted, you're in a bad space. So have multiple streams of income. Get your money from different types of things. This is one reason why I do more than one thing. I do my radio show, but I publish a magazine. I do
Yes.
specialty magazines for my clients. I ghostwrite for people. I also coach people through writing the books who want to do it themselves, but they just need a push and they just need someone to ask all their questions to, but they want to do it themselves.
So
And
let
that's
me ask you
fine.
this.
So that's like 5 right there.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely get into that. But let me ask you this, because right now you transitioned from a teacher to a successful entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to us about a time in your journey where you lost your confidence, because it seems like you're very successful and you've done amazing. But there was a time there that you lost your confidence and you were like, man, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Talk to us about that. And what did you learn about yourself to get yourself to where you're at now? Because many people, like I said, are losing their jobs, and that's the next entrepreneur. It's going to be the next, maybe the next invention that they're going to do. But talk to us about that time in your journey when you were transitioning and you're like, man, I'm just going to go back to what I know, but you didn't, you pushed through. And how did you find your confidence in that?
Yeah. There were several times where I started the entrepreneurial journey and I hit a brick wall and then I went back to get a job and I was miserable, hated it. There's nothing wrong with having a job, but I knew that that wasn't me. Yes, I can follow the rules and yes, I can do what you want me to do and do it very well. But if you're miserable doing that, here's the thing. When you become really good at something you don't want to do, the world's just going to keep asking you to do more of it.
Yes. Say that again. Boom. Wow.
When you become really good at something you don't enjoy doing, the world's going to keep asking you to do more of it.
Yes. You know what comes to mind? It's like there's always one friend that has a new car, and then you have 5 friends around that friend. And hey, can you give me a ride? Can you give me a ride? And the more you say yes to those, hey, I'll give you a ride, the more they're going to call you and ask you for a ride.
Right. Because you've taught them that you'll do it and probably for free.
Yes. 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 Wow. Okay. Keep telling us. This is awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because there was one point in time, probably about 7, 8 years ago, where I was working in a call center. I wasn't happy. I wasn't able to afford the mortgage on my home. And so I got real resourceful and creative and I listed it on Airbnb and I rented it out to winter visitors in Arizona. You can really capitalize on the snowbird season. And so I did that and I would either rent a room somewhere or sleep in my car or whatever I had to do. But I had to do that. I had to give up living in my own home in order to afford my mortgage. And I thought, what am I doing? And this is while I was this was during the first year of my radio show where this was going on. And imposter syndrome was heavy. I'm interviewing some of those amazing people in the world. And this is my life right now. Wow.
Yes.
But I was introduced to a friend who is still one of my very best friends today. And he took me through this whole series of conversations. Who are you? What's your purpose? What do you really want to do? And those were not fun conversations. There were many tears because I didn't know, but he just kept asking. He wouldn't let it go. He was like a pit bull. He would not let go of me, which I'm thankful for.
Well, you know what? I want to touch base on that because I ran into that, and you said a powerful word right there: imposter syndrome, or some people call it a fraudulent complex. Right? You think you don't belong. So,
yeah,
talk to us about that. I think there's people listening to this episode. So, what do you mean you hit that imposter syndrome? Talk to us about that because many people.
Yeah,
I ran into that, and we're all going to hit that at some level of success.
It's that moment where you feel unworthy and you start comparing yourself to other people, and you think, I should be much further along in my journey than I am right now. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people, when they present their A version, their A game on social media, it's not always true. I know it's not always true. I mean, when you have someone who positions themselves, for example, as a spiritual wealth coach, but they're broke as a joke, you don't want to call them out because they're struggling too. And I think sometimes in that time when I was posting stuff, I was ministering to myself. It wasn't that I was trying to necessarily empower a lot of other people. If that happened, that's great. But I was doing it to just stroke that belief in myself so that I could have that. Because Facebook, it's a big, giant journal, really, if you think about it. You're archiving your journey.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was doing it more or less to encourage myself. I didn't care if I had likes or shares or comments or not. If I did, that's fine. But,
So let
you
me ask you
know,
this.
yeah.
So you feel like you hit that wall of imposter syndrome. You feel you're unworthy. You feel like you're comparing yourself. Talk to us. Give us two takeaways how to get out of that. How do you
Yeah.
crawl, right? Because I will tell you, I sabotage when I first started doing what I'm doing. At least there was twice that I remember I lost 2 days of business because it hits you hard.
Yeah.
So what did you do to get out of that imposter syndrome, not to feel that you were worthy, and how did you stop comparing yourself?
Get a mentor. Get a mentor. That's really important. And sometimes you will be asked to pay for it. In this particular case, I wasn't, thankfully. But just have an inspiring conversation with someone every single day if you can. And talk to people who are succeeding because they rub off on you. Go to events if you can. I mean, now, live events are opening up. You're getting some paid speaking gigs
Yeah.
out in the world again. Congratulations for that. But go to events.
Let's go back. But you're going to help somebody here.
Yeah.
There was a point that you felt unworthy. What did you do? Like, there had to be something you did yourself to get that worthiness up within your own life. Tell us something at that point.
So in 2005, Jack Canfield wrote a book called The Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be.
Okay.
You need to fill your mind with positive content. And
Yes.
so I did. And that is still one of my favorite books. So read that book because he outlines just a lot of things that you can do that successful people do. Knowing what you want is really important. I think that's where I was stuck. I didn't know what I really, really wanted. And when you are stuck in that, I don't know what I want phase, you're not going to go anywhere because you're not aiming anywhere.
Oh, I love that. Boom, baby, right? You're not going to go anywhere because you're not aiming anywhere.
Right.
Wow. It's kind of like a GPS, right? At least when you
Mhm.
leave your house and you're going to a destination you've never been, you put the destination in GPS. But if you don't know where you're going and you don't know what you want, I love that. So write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Write down what is it that you want. You have to take time to meditate and reflect on what you really want in life. And like Brian said, if you don't have a final destination or just an idea, you don't have to have the exact niche but just an idea of where you want to go in life. That's going to get you going forward. But if you don't know,
Yeah.
you're just going to continue going in circles.
Yeah. And one exercise in that book that Jack talked about was come up with your list of 101 things you want to accomplish in your lifetime. This was before the term bucket list was really being used, but that's really what it was a bucket list exercise. I am not a guy who wants a lot. So 101 was like way too many for me. I think I came up with 45 or 50. But he says, if you make that list and never look at it again and come back to it in a year or two, you will just by osmosis have some of those list things checkmarked. And they don't have to be big, big, big things. I came back to that list 2 years later and I had already accomplished 7 or 8 of them. One of them was start a radio show. I'm like, oh gosh, I did this. I'm doing this now. So that was pretty cool. And now I've started that again, and I've got probably 45 or 50 things. Some of them are still the same things, and some of them are very, very different. And they're not necessarily all big things. I mean, one of the things on my list is to go on a hot air balloon ride.
Yeah.
I just haven't done it yet,
So,
but I don't want to do it by myself.
So let me ask you this. Do you think as an individual, as a person, we should write things down more on a piece of paper? What happens when you, in your perspective, because you've taught grammar, you teach it, you're a teacher. Does something happen internally when you write stuff down as to when you just like, because I meet so many people that said, we'll just talk about clients that I'm going to onboard and we're talking and they're like, oh, I got my goals. Like, well, where are they at? Was they're in my brain, right? I hear that all the time. Was they're in my heart? They're in my brain. What's the difference between having it in your brain or just to say, I know what I want as to writing it down? Talk to us about that.
There's something magical about writing it down because you can look at it over and over and over again. And it represents your commitment to the universe.
Yes.
That you're going to do something and put a timeline on it if you can. Now, my goals are a little more universal. So it doesn't matter to me so much when those happen, but I want them to happen sometime. So, I mean, one of the things that I wrote down is I want to have an inspiring conversation with somebody every single day. And so that is what I'm doing now. So I can check that off my list today. But I mean, even stuff like that, commit to walking or exercising for 30 minutes a day. That's something that I've committed to in the last couple of months. And I walk a minimum of 30 minutes every single day. Just gets the heart going.
Yeah. So let's do a shift here. So
Yeah.
tell us it's a challenging time in your life that really just kind of almost brought you down, but you pushed through that, because right now I really want to add value and build that resilience, and let our audience know that, hey, we can make it through this. You can make it through this. Talk to us about that time when you had one of those most hardest challenges you've had in your life, Brian.
Wow. Where do I begin? Because there's more than one. What would be the most helpful thing for me to share? Okay. So relating back to the time where I was renting out my home as an Airbnb, I had a desktop computer, so obviously not very portable. And so in those times where I didn't have a place to stay and I was sleeping in my car, I was still trying to run a business. And so I was at the mercy of when the public library system was open. That's not a fun thing.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's not really fun, but you do. So you go to the public library and you do your thing. And if you need to do a call with somebody, you hop on your phone and you leave the room because you can't be on the phone in the library, obviously. So you make some pivots and some adaptations. And so you just have to learn to be resourceful. See, here's the thing. When you are in a bad space, you learn resilience, you learn resourcefulness. You have to. When you are in a corner, you will figure this out if you want to.
Yes. Boom, baby. Oh, I love that.
You will figure this out.
Yes.
If you really, really, really want to. And so you do. And so
that's
what I had to do.
And I'm glad you said that, because where I'm at right now physically, it's like I hurt my ankle. I can't walk. I had crutches, and the crutches were doing okay, but it hurt. It was just, I thought I'd be walking by now. And then my wife was talking to a friend. She goes, why don't you get Daniel a scooter? So it's like, told my wife, just go get it, right? It's like, what's around you that you can use? And the scooter's been a blessing. Yeah. But so many of us, we hit that roadblock and we just give up there, because I think, and this is true because this used to be me, and I'll be totally honest. I used to get angry and upset. And when you get angry and upset, that closes your mind to ideas.
Yeah.
So you get stuck.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, how resourceful you were. You're going, man, I never knew that about you.
Yeah. It's not something I've shared very much.
Well, thank you for sharing. And what did you learn about yourself? And then how did you come out of that? I mean, I can imagine it's very humbling, and running a business out of a library. But what I love what you said, you didn't give up.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I interviewed some of my guests from a free conference room at the public library. I interviewed Jack Canfield from the Chandler Public Library.
But think about that.
On my phone. Yeah.
But you didn't give up.
I didn't give up. And that's still one of my favorite interviews ever, because it was really amazing. In fact, my interview with him was one of the featured interviews in this book, Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers. I repurposed some of my best interviews into books. And I've got a series. I've done 3 of those, actually.
But think about right now, Brian, speaking to somebody out there, you're looking at the conditions and the situations that you're in, and you're feeling sorry for yourself. You're getting in your feelings, and you need to get out of your feelings, because Brian had every reason. Think about this. He couldn't take his computer because there was no laptops back in the day.
Well, there were. I just didn't own one.
Yeah. And he's running his business from the library. But the thing is, he didn't give up. And right now, audience, you need to understand that use what you have and get resourceful, but don't give up on yourself, and don't get angry, because I tell you from experience, the moment you start getting frustrated and angry is the moment your creativity stops. And Brian was pushing forward because he used what he had. He had a library, and there's a will, there's a way. That's what he's saying. Man, I love that, Brian. And what did you learn about yourself in that season?
I learned that I am stronger and more powerful than I was giving myself credit for. I realized that God will always provide a way for me. And that's the truth. Oh gosh, just so many things. I just knew that there was something beautiful on the other side of this. And I kept telling myself, there's a great story behind this. There is a great story that I will be able to tell someday because of this. And perhaps, and here's the other thing too, sometimes when you go through things, it's because you need to learn something, but sometimes you're going through this so that someone else can learn from what you just went through.
I love that. How can we teach something we've never been through, right? I love that. Yes. So let me ask you this. What keeps Brian Wright consistent? And I think many times in business, we start something, we start a project, and it doesn't go our way or whatever happens, we just throw it to the wayside. And that inconsistency kills what we're trying to do. Talk to us about it. How does Brian Wright stay consistent?
Do something every single day in the direction of your goals. When I'm ghostwriting a book, that's not hard to do because I know that I have to get that book done. And so I try and do something, if I can, every single day toward that. Or if I'm working on the current edition of my magazine, I do something in that direction every single day. Or I'll do something to advance myself toward earning new clients every single day. It's a juggling act.
Yes.
But I try and do something every single day, even on Sunday, even something.
Yes. I think just that small win adds up. The compound interest of that small win keeps you going forward, doesn't it? And talking about your magazine, I got a copy right here because I was featured in your Success Profiles magazine. Yeah. It's an amazing magazine. I love it. It came out amazing. I'm really, really excited about it. Yeah. And Success Profiles magazine, how did you get the idea for this magazine?
Well, I started with my show Success Profiles Radio, and I've been doing that since January 2012. And episode number 400 is coming up this coming Monday.
Woo! Congratulations. Woo! Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And after maybe 3 years or so, I realized that I had so much content that I had not been repurposing in any way, shape, or form. So I bought the domain for successprofilesmagazine.com. I didn't do anything with it right away. I was renewing it for the 3rd year and I just got convicted. Oh, you're paying for something you're not using again. How many times have we done that? So I said, okay, I have to do something with this. And so I thought, okay, what's my first step? Who do I want to be on the cover? Well, I had interviewed Kevin Harrington 6 or 7 months prior to that. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, Kevin, I'm starting this new thing. Thank you again for being on my show a few months ago. I want you to be the very first person on the cover. I will curate material from the interview we already did. And I don't need anything from you except for some great photos. And 90 minutes later, he emailed me back and said, I'm in. And so then I thought, okay, now I need content because I don't want to write all the content myself. That would take a serious amount of time. Yeah. And so I invited people to collaborate and contribute articles. And then I had to find a graphic designer to lay it all out. And then I located a printer to print a few copies. And so I just started doing all those things. I wasn't so worried about selling ads that first issue, although I did sell an ad that first issue to help pay for that first issue. But just get started. You can fine tune the rest later. I look at that first issue now and I think it was really great. It's a lot better now. I look back at that first one and I think I would have done so many things differently.
Yes, but think about this. I want the audience to hear this. Mm-hmm. Brian started with what he had. Brian had so much content, and how much do we have? We don't even realize it. But the thing is, I want my audience to hear this. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is not the goal, just progress, right? Write this down, guys. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. And that's what Brian's saying. And his magazine is amazing. I'll tell you what, I'm honored to be featured in it. Man, I was flattered and it's amazing. So if somebody wants to get a hold of the magazine or work with you on this, we're definitely going to give you an opportunity to promote this and get this out there because I think it adds a lot of value. It's actually helped me get clients because it's good. It's an amazing magazine. I love it, right? It's just, you do an amazing job. So I want to give you kudos for that. I want to ask you this question. What makes Brian Wright distinctive? What makes him unique and stand out from the masses?
I ask great questions when I interview people. I care. I want people to have a good result, and I'm happy when they do. And I'm very happy to hear that you've gotten clients because of this. It's awesome. In fact, a friend of mine asked me a little over a year ago, have you done one of these for yourself? I said, no. He's like, why not? I said, well, paying clients come first. He said, you need one of these for yourself. And so I started, but I haven't finished it yet because I had a bunch of new projects come my way and it's still there. In fact, I need to do a new photo shoot. So I think that's probably the thing that is stopping it right now is I need to do a new photo shoot. And I will do that soon. I've been saying that for a while, but yeah, I will do that soon because the last professional photo shoot I had, I was probably 40 pounds bigger than I am now. And I deserve a new photo shoot.
Yes, you deserve your own. Brian, you haven't done a magazine on yourself, really? A cover?
I haven't.
Well, you need to.
This
So
is
let
the
me ask you
thing.
this.
A lot of people who start a magazine probably would put themselves on the very first cover. I don't have that level of ego. I don't
Yeah.
have to do that.
Yo, I believe
Yeah.
you. So let me ask you this. I asked you what makes you distinctive. You said caring. Why is that important in business?
I think if people know how much you care, then it does make a huge difference because it tells people that you're just not out to get their money. You want them to get a good result. I mean, when I interviewed you, I wanted to make sure that this would be the best way for you to serve your mission and your audience. So the questions that we went through during our magazine interview were driven specifically to help you get the result that you wanted to get out of this when it was done. It wasn't just me asking you a bunch of questions and slapping it together. There was a lot of care that went into this.
Yes, and I will say that yes, because we went. I think we re-edited like 3 times, or there was just some stuff that we tweaked. So I definitely remember that for sure, man. Well, you know what? Before we leave the show, we're almost coming to the end of it. I want to ask you, what is a quote, or what is a saying or a scripture that Brian Wright leans on during times of adversity?
For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you future and a hope.
I love that.
And I think about that every single day.
Say that again if you don't mind. I love hearing that scripture.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you future and a hope. It's from Jeremiah 29:11, I think it is.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Wow. So, how do we get a hold of the amazing Brian Wright? I love this interview. Thank you so much for coming and
You're
being on our
welcome.
show. I want my audience to connect with you, to get a hold of you, because you have some amazing services. And, ladies and gentlemen, I highly recommend that you reach out to Brian. He'll definitely help you. Whether you need a ghostwriter book or thinking about being on his amazing magazine, it's definitely worth it. So, how do
Yeah.
we get a hold of you, my friend?
Well, people can get on my calendar, callwithbrian.com, BRIAN, callwithbrian.com if they want to schedule a 30-minute time to talk with me.
That's it. Sorry.
Callwithbrian.com.
All right, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Callwithbrian.com. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing interview. I hope you took some massive, massive notes. And the biggest takeaway that I took is you need to be resourceful.
Yeah.
You need to be resourceful. Stop making excuses for yourself. And ladies and gentlemen, if you definitely want to elevate your speaking career, March 5th and 6th here in San Antonio, we're going to have the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. It's going to be amazing here at the Norris Conference Center. Reach out to me at daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com. Send me an email. We'll send you more information. We got some amazing speaker training coming up. That's a wrap for this week's episode. And we'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.